The days after the first date passed in a blur for Liam. He couldn't shake the conversation he had with Sarah from his mind. The idea of her being a mother, with a young child at home, was something he had never considered in the context of dating. At first, he thought it might just be something he could move past. But the more he thought about it, the more questions piled up. Could he really step into a relationship with someone who already had such deep ties to another life? Could he handle it? Liam spent the next few days overthinking everything. He wasn't sure if he was ready for the responsibilities that came with being close to a child, especially one as young as Max. But Sarah kept crossing his thoughts, and he found himself looking forward to their next meeting. There was something about her that made him want to try. She was intelligent, independent, and clearly a great mother. He admired the way she talked about Max with such love and devotion, and he realized he wanted to be a part of that world. But he was scared. The next time they met, it was in a park, a quiet place with green lawns and a few scattered playgrounds. Sarah had suggested it, saying it would be easier with Max around. The thought of spending time with her son made Liam nervous, but he didn't want to back out. If he was going to make this work, he knew he had to take the leap. Liam arrived early, walking around the park while he waited. The breeze was cool, the sky clear and blue. As he leaned against a bench, he saw Sarah approach, holding Max by the hand. Max was small but full of energy, darting ahead of Sarah and looking back to make sure she was following. Liam stood up as they neared. Max noticed him first, and after a moment's hesitation, ran over with a big smile on his face. "Hi," Max said, looking up at Liam with bright eyes. "Are you going to play with me?" Liam smiled, surprised by how comfortable Max seemed. "I'm not sure if I'm good at playing trucks," he said, glancing at Sarah for reassurance. Sarah laughed softly. "He loves trucks, and dinosaurs, and anything that can be raced." Max tugged at Liam's hand, pulling him toward the nearby sandbox. "You can race with me," he insisted. Liam glanced at Sarah, who gave him a small, encouraging nod. He took a deep breath and followed Max. The moment felt surreal, like stepping into a completely different world. A world where he was no longer just himself, but part of something bigger. For the next hour, Liam found himself on the ground, building sand castles and racing toy trucks with Max. The simple joy in the child's laughter was infectious, and Liam began to relax. He had never thought of himself as a kid person, but something about Max's energy, his openness, made it easy to connect. The awkwardness he had felt earlier seemed to disappear with each passing moment. Meanwhile, Sarah sat back on a nearby bench, watching them with a soft smile. She had noticed the way Liam interacted with Max, gently, without hesitation. It wasn't that Liam was perfect, or that he was suddenly a natural with kids, but there was something sincere in the way he was trying. And that was enough. After a while, Max grew tired and wandered off to grab a juice box from his backpack. Sarah moved to sit beside Liam on the bench. "You're good with him?" Sarah said, her voice soft but warm. Liam shrugged, unsure of how to respond. "I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to keep up." "You don't have to be perfect," Sarah replied. "Just be yourself." Liam nodded, looking over at Max, who was now sipping his juice with a contented smile. "He's a good kid." "He is," Sarah said, her eyes following Max for a moment. "He's my world. I've been on my own with him for a while now. It's not always easy, but I wouldn't trade it." Liam felt a lump form in his throat. It was clear that Sarah loved her son deeply. There was an intensity in her words, a protectiveness that spoke volumes. He couldn't help but admire her. She had built a life for herself and Max, and from what he could see, she was doing a great job. But he couldn't ignore the feeling that he wasn't fully prepared for the weight that came with that life. "I'm not sure I'm ready to be a part of all this," Liam admitted, his voice quiet. He wasn't sure why he was saying it, but he felt the need to be honest. "I mean, I like Max, I really do. But this is different from anything I've ever known. I'm not sure I can be the guy you need." Sarah looked at him, her eyes thoughtful. She had expected him to have doubts. Dating someone with a child wasn't something that was easy for everyone to understand. "I get that," she said. "I'm not asking you to be anything you're not. All I want is someone who cares, Max doesn't need another father. He already has one. But he deserves to have people in his life who genuinely care about him and me, who are willing to be there, even when things get hard. Liam looked down, trying to process her words. He didn't know if he was ready to take on the role of a stepfather or even a significant part of their lives, but there was something in Sarah's tone that made him want to try. She wasn't asking for anything he couldn't give, but the pressure of it all still hung in the air. "I don't want to let you down," Liam said quietly, his eyes meeting hers. "You won't," Sarah replied with a reassuring smile. "You don't have to have all the answers right away. Just be honest and we'll figure it out together." The weight of her words settled in Liam's chest. It wasn't about having everything figured out. It was about being present, being there, even when the road ahead was uncertain. And maybe, just maybe, that was something he could do. The afternoon passed in a comfortable silence, with the three of them enjoying each other's company. Max ran off to play with other children, while Sarah and Liam stayed behind, talking about life, the future, and their hopes for what might come next. As the sun began to set, Sarah stood up and stretched. "Well, I should get Max home for dinner," she said, glancing at her watch. "Thank you for today, Liam. It was nice to see you connect with him." Liam smiled, feeling a sense of warmth inside. "It was good for me, too. I didn't expect to enjoy it so much." Sarah smiled softly. "I'm glad. And you don't have to be perfect. Just be yourself, Liam. That's all I'm asking." As they walked out of the park together, Liam found himself feeling lighter than he had in days. He still didn't know what the future would hold, but for the first time he felt like maybe he could be a part of theirs. Sarah had opened the door, and he was starting to realize that perhaps he was ready to walk through it. Liam sat at the small cafe table, his fingers drumming lightly on the wood as he waited. The dim lighting gave the room a warm, intimate feel, and the quiet hum of other conversations blended with the soft clink of coffee cups. It was a typical first date. Nervous smiles, polite conversation, and an undercurrent of excitement. After weeks of online chats, he was finally meeting Sarah in person. When Liam had seen Sarah's profile on the dating app, he'd been drawn to her openness. Her smile was genuine and her words felt real. She wasn't one of those women with a long list of criteria. She seemed easygoing, down to earth. He liked that. He'd been through a rough patch lately, and the idea of a fresh start, of meeting someone who wasn't carrying the weight of past baggage, felt like something he could handle. Sarah walked in a few minutes late, her eyes scanning the room before they settled on him. Liam stood as she approached, his nerves settling at the sight of her. She was even more beautiful than her pictures, her dark hair falling in soft waves around her face, her smile warm and inviting. She looked nervous too, but there was something about her that immediately put him at ease. "Sorry I'm late," she said, settling into the chair across from him. "Traffic was awful." "No problem," Liam replied, offering a reassuring smile. "I was just getting comfortable." They exchanged pleasantries as the waiter took their orders. Small talk about the weather, their jobs, and the city they lived in filled the air between them, but the conversation quickly moved beyond the surface. Sarah was easy to talk to, and Liam found himself opening up more than he usually did on a first date. He shared stories about his childhood, his favorite books, and his awkward experiences with online dating. Sarah listened intently, laughing at all the right moments, making Liam feel like they'd known each other for years. But then, just as they were starting to find a rhythm, Sarah's expression changed. She paused, looking down at her glass for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Liam noticed the shift and felt a small knot form in his stomach. "I have something I should probably tell you," Sarah said, her voice quieter now. "I have a son." "He's 5, Liam blinked. He hadn't expected that. Of course, he hadn't expected much, considering how little he really knew about her. But a son? 5 years old? He hadn't even considered the possibility that Sarah might already have a child. "I didn't know," Liam said, trying to process the information. He had no idea how to respond, his mind racing. "Yeah, I don't usually bring it up on first dates," Sarah continued, her eyes meeting his. "But I feel like if things go anywhere between us, it's important that you know." Liam swallowed, suddenly aware of how much he didn't know. A son, a child. It felt like a heavy detail, one that changed everything. He had imagined a simple evening, getting to know someone, having a drink, maybe making plans for a second date. But this was different. Of course, Liam said, nodding, though he wasn't sure he completely understood what this meant. How old is he? 5, Sarah repeated, her smile softening as she talked about him. His name's Max. He's my little guy, the center of my world. Liam's thoughts shifted rapidly. He wasn't ready for this. He didn't know if he was ready to date someone with a child. He'd never been in that situation before. He'd heard about it, of course, stories from friends who dated single parents, the challenges they faced, the boundaries they had to navigate. But it wasn't something he'd ever considered for himself. I didn't know, Liam said again, more to himself than to Sarah, trying to get his thoughts together. I'm sure that's a lot of responsibility. Sarah's face darkened just a little, but she didn't look offended. Instead, there was a tiredness in her eyes, a quiet understanding. It's a lot, yeah, she admitted. Being a single mom isn't easy. But it's my life. I wouldn't trade him for anything, Liam's mind raced. He wanted to ask more questions, what it was like raising a child on her own, how she managed to juggle everything. But there was also a part of him that hesitated. He didn't know if he could handle it. I'm not sure what to say, Liam admitted, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. He was trying to be honest, but he didn't want to come across as uninterested or worse, judgmental. That's okay, Sarah replied, her tone gentle. I didn't expect you to have an answer right away. I just wanted you to know. The conversation slowed for a moment, both of them sitting in the quiet as the weight of her words settled in. Liam couldn't stop thinking about Max. He'd never really thought about what it meant to date someone with a child. It wasn't that he disliked kids. He just hadn't imagined himself in that role. Could he be a good partner to Sarah if it meant becoming part of her life with Max? So you've been a mom for 5 years now? Liam asked, trying to steer the conversation back to safer ground. Yeah, Sarah said, her face softening again as she spoke of her son. It's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done. But also the hardest. Liam nodded, feeling a pang of guilt. Here he was, struggling with a simple question of commitment, while Sarah had been carrying this weight alone for so long. It was clear that she loved Max more than anything, that he was her whole world. But what about him? What did that mean for him? Do you think Max would like me? Liam asked, trying to make light of the situation. Sarah laughed softly, a sound that was a little more relaxed now. He's not exactly picky. He just wants someone to play trucks with him and maybe share some pizza. Liam chuckled, feeling the tension in his chest ease just a little. It was a strange conversation, but somehow he felt like they were getting to know each other in a deeper way than he'd expected. Maybe I can meet him someday, Liam said. I mean, if things move in that direction, of course. Sarah smiled, her eyes warm. We'll see. Max is great with new people, but I don't introduce him to just anyone. Liam understood that. He wasn't sure he was ready to be part of their world, but at the same time, he felt an undeniable pull towards Sarah. She wasn't like anyone he'd met before. There was a quiet strength to her, a calm that drew him in. As they finished their meal, the conversation continued, but the earlier shock of Sarah's revelation hung in the air. Liam couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change in ways he hadn't planned. He wasn't sure what that meant yet, but he couldn't help wondering if he could be the man Sarah and Max needed. When the bill arrived, they stood to leave, Sarah slipping on her jacket with a small smile. Thank you for dinner, she said. I'm glad we met. Me too, Liam said, his voice soft. I'm glad we did too. They walked out together, their steps in sync, but inside, Liam's heart was racing. He had no idea what the future held, but he knew one thing. This wasn't going to be an easy road. Still, he couldn't deny the feeling that somehow it was worth taking the first step.